Welcome into a quick hit Believe in Panthers episode here on Believe Podcast Networks, brought to you by the fine folks over at FanDuel. Tobacco Road Sports Radio's Desmond Johnson in the house with, we're continuing our series of Panther content creators doing a content creator tour, which is what I do usually every June here while my brother in arms, Jonathan Stewart, takes a little bit of a break. I'm going to be taking a break myself. You won't see this face for a couple of weeks after this episode. We'll be back in July as we get closer to training camp, and we'll get you ready for the NFC South. We'll get you ready for our roster itself, and we'll get you ready for that Hall of Fame game that first week in August as we induct our beloved Luke Kuechly into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Joining me today, friend of the program, Ryan Smith. He is the host of a number of things. He's the host of Inside the Vault. You can find that on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network that's powered by the Fans First Sports Network. And you can find those episodes on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel and the Tobacco Road Sports Radio podcast network, as well as the host of Winning the Division with former NFL tight end Ben Troop, that does more of a roundtable around the league type style podcast. That's every week as well. You can also find that on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network and the Fans First Sports Network. Ryan, what's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm good, Desmond. How are you?
Pretty good. Tired. I'm trying to be like you. I'm trying to grow a beard. My wife, I've never grown a beard before, and I'm 48. And she was like, I want to see what you like with a beard. So like early June, I just stopped shaving. So I don't know what it's going to look like, or I bought some beard oil today. Yeah. So, I'm new.
You're a little older than me. You're a little older than me, but you just got to keep having those kids, and then, eventually just don't shave anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to stop.
For 3 kids under 4 will do this to you. So that's what
Yes. You've been very, very busy. Very, very busy. I want to hit some of the, not a whole lot of news at this part of the calendar, which is why I'm about to take a break myself. But wanted to hit some of the bigger news that we've had with the Panthers over the past couple of weeks. And the main one would be the extension to wide receiver Jalen Coker. Jalen Coker, who I did not get a chance to talk about this last episode because it hadn't happened yet, I don't believe, when I did the taping then. But he just signed 3-year, $35 million contract extension. It's worth up to $41 million with incentives. He had a career high that magical night that almost was in Charlotte, the NFC wildcard game where they took the Rams to a minute and 20 seconds of elimination. He was a major part of that game. Talk to me about Jalen and your thoughts on them extending him. He's 24 years old. He's 6'3". He's kind of emerged as the de facto number 2 going into this upcoming season, depending on what happens with Xavier Legette, who we'll get to in a sec. But talk to me about the extension to Coker.
I thought it was well-deserved 3-year extension, as you mentioned, undrafted out of Holy Cross. Jalen Coker is a guy who, let's be honest, Bryce Young with Jalen Coker, 92.1% passing rating, 91.2% passing rating, but without him, drops to 77.4. So that's a 14% swing there without Jalen Coker in the lineup. Jalen has, like you said, become that number 2 receiver, I think, easily going into this season behind T-Mac McMillan from last year. But the thing for Jalen, though, he has to stay healthy. He's had some soft tissue injuries, the quad, as we know, right before training camp last year. Right before the season last year, rather, he was placed on the PUP list. And so that's going to be the big thing for Jalen, is he has to stay healthy. But, yeah, I mean, Desmond, this is in 22 games. 22. That's all he's played for the Panthers in a playoff game. That's it. And he has done really well. And I think the sky – I would say the sky's the limit. That might be not be the right word. It might be overstated a little bit. But he is someone who is only going to get better as he plays more, develops that connection with Bryce Young, and, as I said, that he stays on the field. But this is well-deserved. Gives the Panthers a solid 3 years, which they could easily get out of it in the next 3 years if something happens or whatever, just – no worries. But this is a great team-friendly deal, and I'm a big fan of it.
I'm a huge fan of it, too. I became a cokehead, as what his fan base has been known affectionately throughout the the Panther fan base, which was news to him when he found out about it. Yeah. Holy Cross, probably Holy Cross' best wide receiver of all time. And I'm glad he's one of those Dan Morgan finds. I think I've mentioned this to you and I just said it on a podcast before, I think Dan Morgan has a formula. I'm going to call it the Dan Morgan formula, the system. The Morgan system. And what he does, from what I'm watching him do in these past 3 off seasons, he goes into free agency. He'll find 2 starters in free agency, like every year. It's usually the first 2 people he signs. They're going to probably be starters. Then in the draft, he's going to get a sure starter in the first round. He's going to get somebody that's probably starter borderline second round. And everything after that is going to be some useful part. It's going to be something for depth, special teams, but most of them are going to probably make the roster. And looking back at the past 2 drafts that Dan has commanded, the majority of those guys are here. Then the part I love the most, he typically goes into undrafted free agency and he finds one gem. He'll find one guy that you did not think would be that guy that he'll bring in, and they'll end up being a vital part of the rotation, whether it's Jalen Coker or Corey Thornton last year. I've got a question a bit later on who I think you might think it might be for this year. But yeah. I wanted to get into the questions that we've been giving our guests. We've had a couple of guests on over the past couple of weeks. They're content creators. Shout out to Cody over at the Carolina Cat Chronicles podcast who was on last week. And shout out to our guy, What's Up, Doug, who kicked this whole thing off 2 weeks ago. I wanted to ask you some of these questions. Now, minicamp ended on the 11th. Which veteran on this roster has the most to prove to you coming into the postseason? And you report on the Panthers every week. Which veteran for you, Ryan, like who are you looking at as a guy that's got to step up in your mind? Or at least make an impact.
Yeah, at least make an impact. Yeah, there's a number of ways I can go here. But a guy that has had trouble staying healthy, similar to Jalen Coker, but has not had the impact that Jalen Coker has had, is Trevon Wallace. Devin Lloyd comes in at linebacker, and I think he's going to be the leader of that room. But Trevon Wallace has got to stay healthy, 1. And 2, he's got to play better. They drafted him in the 3rd round, if I'm not mistaken, and that was a Dan Morgan pick. He played linebacker, obviously, at the Kentucky, and Dan Morgan played linebacker back in the day, so he knows linebackers. But I don't think Trevon Wallace is a bad player. That's not what I'm saying. I think he can be a pretty good complement to Devin Lloyd. He just needs to stay healthy. He needs to make an impact, whether that – and I don't think he's going to have the mic. It might be Devin Lloyd, even though he did not have that in Jacksonville.
Yeah, they switched him before he got hurt last year. Remember, they switched him and Roseboom, and that's actually both started playing better once they did that. And then
we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
but yes, Trevon Wallace is the answer to the first question.
So that's actually a really good one. No one had mentioned him yet, and I kind of forgot he was on the roster. So yeah, that's a really good. That's a really good one there. The rookie class we just talked about. Dan Morgan's success in the draft has an eye for talent, and I'm sure by now you've watched the Panthers Blueprint episode that came out a week or 2 ago. Fantastic. I might rewatch it again here in just a little bit, where you go behind the scenes in the Panthers draft room and you get to see Dan and Dave Canales and Brant Tillis, who's a vital part of these moving up and down the board. They might seem minor, moving up 4 spots here, moving down 5 spots there, but it's huge. It's really huge in terms of like where you're landing some of these players. Which drafted rookie has the chance to start day 1 in your eyes, and why?
So this answer has changed a couple times since you asked me this question. So as I'm looking over here on the Panthers draft class, I was going to go with Sam Hecht at center, but I do think he is going to be the starter. Luke Fortner is going to be the starter, I think, at center, unfortunately. I'm going to go Lee Hunter, someone next to Derek Brown, who, let's be honest, Turk Wharton has the neck injury. Bobby Brown III had reduced snaps towards the end of the year going down the stretch, and so he hasn't been as big of a best of a signing as they hoped he would be. Obviously, this is a big year for him. Cam Jackson is a guy who we drafted in the 6th round, I want to say, year before last, and so he's going to have an increased role this year. But I'm really looking at Lee Hunter, who is a guy at Texas Tech who thrived with David Bailey, who went to the Jets at number 2 overall. And that D-line had a lot of NIL testament at Texas A&M. And Texas Tech has been in the news for other reasons as well, but we're not going to get into that here, I know. Yeah. But yeah, Lee Hunter is my answer to this question. I think he could easily slide next to Derek Brown, be the A'Shawn Robinson replacement, and really provide Derek Brown with some opportunities for one-on-one in the pass rush, which is
a delight for opposing offensive lines, having to worry about blocking Derek Brown with one man when we've watched him toss like 2-3 guys out the club in the same play before. That sounds like a tall task. So we'll keep an eye on that there. Before I get you to the next question, I do need to talk about the Panthers' odds over at FanDuel right now. Their odds to win the division, the NFC South, are at plus 310. Odds to win the Super Bowl at plus 7,000. So if you bet $100 on the Panthers to win, not just get there, but win the Super Bowl, if you bet $100 on it, you will return back $70,000. Am I getting that right?
I'm not a math major. That sounds right to me.
I always mess that part up. That's what Stu usually does. He's like, no, it's this or no, it's that. go put some money on the Panthers this year. We feel pretty confident about them. Go over to FanDuel's website, sportsbook.fanduel.com. Place those bets on the Panthers right now before we get to the preseason as the Panthers open with the Hall of Fame game against the Arizona Cardinals in Canton, Ohio. I may be going up there. I actually have relatives in Cleveland, and I've been to the Hall of Fame once. Have you ever been to the Hall of Fame before?
Great experience. I went when I was 17, 18.
Yeah. About a decade ago, if I'm not mistaken, the Jake Delhomme Moose Muhammad touchdown pass, it's in there. It's the longest pass in Super Bowl history. I think it still is. So that's in there. And Luke Kuechly was getting, put into the Hall of Fame this year. So it's a good time to go up there if you're a Panther. And if I do go up there, me and Stu may do some sort of something on site. I don't know what, but we may figure something out if I go. So we'll keep you guys posted for that for Believe in Panthers. We talked about it a minute ago, but I wanted you to save your answer. Which undrafted free agent signing has you intrigued the most? Because, again, Dan likes to cook outside of the draft. As soon as the draft's over, they're on the phone making calls with guys that didn't get drafted. And he's usually plucked one out every year that we're like, who's that guy? And then he turns out to be a major contributor. Out of the guys that he's signed this year, from what you know their college careers, who's the guy you're keeping your eye on?
I know someone's already mentioned this of your previous two guests, and I'm going to go here. I know you're a Tar Heel. Aaron Hall from Duke. That's going to be my guy at defensive tackle to keep an eye on, because that depth is definitely needed with Derek Brown and Bobby Brown and Turk Wharton with the neck injury, as I mentioned earlier. So Aaron Hall had a great career at Duke. I think he could have gone maybe in the 5th or 6th round, but he ended up going undrafted. And I think the Panthers are going to reap the benefits of him being a guy here that can really contribute in year number one, maybe as a rotational guy, when guys like, again, Bobby Brown and maybe Turk Wharton, if he comes back, get that rest in between. So I like Aaron Hall to make the roster and maybe even suit up on game day, depending on the scheme we're playing and things like that.
I've mentioned Haynes King, the quarterback from Georgia Tech that they picked up. I'm
not convinced. I'm not convinced.
I don't know. I mean, Georgia Tech was like 9-0 last year. So
Taysom Hill, I'm not going to say he couldn't play quarterback in the NFL because that's a little too strongly worded. But the reason they're saying that is because they don't think he can throw the ball at this NFL level. That's the reason why they're saying that. And so Taysom Hill, while he did throw the ball occasionally, you saw him 99% of the time when he was running up at quarterback. When he took a snap, he was running. He's
running the ball, yeah. I'm thinking more like Wildcat RPO type stuff they can do with him, maybe because the thing people are forgetting, they traded off Andy Dalton to the Eagles, and whenever it's 4th and short or something, they never let Bryce run into that huddle.
Correct.
It's always the backup. It's usually Andy. They bring him in, he runs it, then Bryce comes back in. Now you can use King to do that, but now you can do it in a different. You can give him like a Tim Tebow package almost of 10 plays and just, Wildcat left, RPO right, throw it 5 yards here. Like, you don't want him to do anything crazy.
Yeah. So. But you have to remember Will Grier and Kenny Pickett shared a quarterback room in Philadelphia. And so they've been together and I think Pittsburgh as well. So they've been together multiple stops. And so that can't be understated for the chemistry in the quarterback room. And so I think it's going to be an uphill battle for Haynes King to make this roster. I think he's going to be a practice squad guy in year number one, in my opinion.
Ryan Smith joining me. He's the host of Winning the Division with Ben Troop, former NFL tight end. He's also the host of Inside the Vault, where you can catch weekly interviews with Panther players, coaches, beat writers, personalities from around the country. You've had Anish Shroff on, you've had ESPN personalities on, you've had on pretty big names. So make sure you go follow Inside the Vault if you're a Panthers fan to get that Panthers perspective from the outside, hosted by Ryan Smith. Before I get you out of here, biggest threat to the Panthers to win the NFC South. When you're looking at the other 3 teams right now, as it stands in June, who's the team you're kind of looking at like, okay, if we don't win the division, it's because of them?
So me and Ben are did a series called, it was our 4-part off-season series. So one of them was called Reconstruction, Rebuild, Reload, and the Super Bowl Contenders. We are not high on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have them under the reconstruction category for a reason. So Mike Evans and Lavonte David going out the door, I think is going to really hurt them more than people realize. Atlanta, it is Atlanta at this point. New Orleans is who we're keeping an eye on because not because I'm necessarily scared of New Orleans. It's actually another reason. It's because I think the Panthers are going to be so dialed in when they play New Orleans this year, knowing that was 2 wins that they easily could have had last year had they just been focused. And I think Shuck is not going to come under the radar this year. I think teams are going to watch that film on him. And remember, he only played 8 games last year before getting that starting role. So I don't think they're going to sneak up on anybody, but I like what they're building. I liked their draft. I liked their free agency with David Edwards from Buffalo, Travis Etienne from Jacksonville, among others. And so I like what the Saints are doing, but I still think they're at least a year away, or maybe even 2, because of the amount of cap stuff that they had. And then that defense is a whole lot older after the Mario Davis departed. And Cam Jordan is still back on a 1-year deal, but he can't play forever. So
like 50,
New Orleans is my pick officially, to answer your question. But I do think the Panthers had the best off-season draft in this class, and I think they will be in contention to win the NFC South 2 years.
Everybody has question marks, I think, except for Carolina. Like with the Saints, they're the oldest team in the division by far. The Falcons, they have a question at quarterback, like in terms of what are they going to really do there and feel comfortable with, because
James Pierce on defense may be out for part of the year because of the off-field stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Atlanta's got some situation. They've got skill pieces they've drafted over the past 3 years, but without that Kirk Cousins was supposed to be that guy. And then the Pittman kid, I think they reached on him. So it's like, I don't know what they're going to do there. That might hold them back. And then Tampa's been kind of treading water at the top of the division.
Todd Bowles might be the first coach fired in 2026.
That's where I was going, because I don't think that's going to sustain much longer there. And now you've got Whispers of Baker asking for more money. Like Baker Mayfield at 33 million is a lot different than Baker Mayfield at 55 million. Like that's a different conversation that I don't know if Tampa wants to get wrangled into, because I don't know if they feel like Baker Mayfield's their quarterback of the future. He's just the quarterback for right now. So that leaves Carolina. Carolina's got the best up-and-coming quarterback in the division, probably one of the better offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in the division, probably one of the better up-and-coming defenses in the division as well. So I'm just kind of looking around. I'm like, the Panthers won the division last year and didn't even want it. Like but them and the Falcons were just playing, hotcakes with it at the end of the year, losing games and backing into this divisional title. I don't think they're going to do that this year. I think they're becoming more focused. And that Rams game, even though they lost the playoff game, I think it showed the franchise and the players that are here. Because again, this is a really young team. They showed we can run with the best teams in the NFL. And then just watching the Hornets down the street go on their streak in January to the point where it was like everybody in the league was kind of scared to play them like towards the end of the year because they didn't know how to really defend them. Seeing that too and seeing the city go nuts for both, that's got to be infectious for them. So I feel like it's the Panthers division to lose. But I'm having a hard time picking out who's going to be second because I feel like the other 3 teams all have flaws. There's something wrong with
any one of those.
It wouldn't surprise us at all, whoever it is. So, yeah. Any final words about as we head into the kind of the dead zone here before we pick it back up again for training camps in July? Anything you want to mention to the fans or how to reach you online?
Yeah, at S Ryan Smith 7 on X or Twitter, however you want to call it. That's how you can reach me. I'm on every social media platform, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, others. And I want to say one thing about the Panthers wide receiving core, because I'll finish with it because you mentioned Jalen Coker at the top. This wide receiving group is very deep this year, and I think there's going to be some very tough decisions made at the end of the preseason on who are going to take Desmond. Do we keep 7 again this year? Finally, we kept 7 2 years in a row. Are we going to keep 6 this year instead? I don't know. But if you look at the names, it's like I like Xavier Legette. I think he's going to be on the roster. I'm not sure about his 5th-year option come next year, but that's for 2027. You've got Coker, you've got McMillan, you've got Legette, and obviously Brazil just got drafted. That's 4. So if we keep Let's say we keep 7 again. Okay, so I think Bryson Tremaine is on the roster.
Yeah, because
they love David Moore. They love him. And so it's going to come down to Jimmy Horn and John Mechie. I think it's going to come down to both of those for one spot. I'm looking at Jimmy Horn. If I had to guess right now, I think John Mechie is the odd man out. I think Dan Morgan signed him as a favorite of Bryce to see what he has in training camp and can produce in the preseason. But what's the guy's name? What's the guy's name that I was just looking up really quick? I know we got to get out of here. the wide receiver, Jaseem Reed, a guy who's been with Carolina for just over a year. Look out for him to be maybe the Bryson Tremaine of last year, a guy who no one saw coming being on the roster. Shout out to Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer, who people know he is actually one who got me looking at him. Jaseem Reed is a name to watch at the wide receiver position into preseason. It could be that Bryson Tremaine, like I said, guy who nobody, including me, had heard of Bryson Tremaine last year. And then he goes and gets on the roster. So I'm not saying he's going to make the roster, but I think he could be a guy that could sneak in there at the very end, maybe as a main practice squad guy, or a guy that maybe try to sneak that 7th spot, depending on how the guys perform with Farley.
There you have it. You can get this every week from Ryan over on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, powered by the Fans First Sports Network. You can find the video of Inside the Vault, which is weekly interviews with Panther beat writers, Panther personalities, national personalities. You can catch that there. And then, of course, Winning the Division with former NFL tight end Ben Troop. You can catch that here as well. About an hour each week, but they go around the league. They check out the biggest stories in the NFL. They recap Sunday. They get you preview for the biggest games coming up the next week. Really good show. Definitely check out both of those, especially if you're a Panthers fan. So for Ryan, this is Desmond again. We'll be back. Give me a couple weeks. Let me rest, y'all. Let me let me get some sleep, and then I will find where Stu is, and we will be back, and we will start previewing the NFC South with some NFC South Believe hosts, and we'll culminate that with our Hall of Fame game and ceremony coverage, which will be huge with Luke getting in there. We'll probably have some former Panthers on here as well, and then we'll get you guys ready for the preseason. So I will see you guys in a few weeks. Keep pounding.